Imagine going into Chicago and you giving out $80,000 a year jobs with benefits. Any gang member, $80,000 a year job, you got to sign a contract that you ain't gang banging no more, boom, 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 boom. I promise you, half of them are done.
What if I told you that crime isn't born from evil people, but from broken economics? Imagine if the murders, shootings, drug trades, and gang wars could all end overnight with one simple fix: real employment. Not minimum wage, not leftover scraps. Real, stable income, $80,000 a year. Dr. Umar Johnson argues, give young black men $80,000 jobs, and half the violence in Chicago disappears tomorrow. And he's not speaking as a politician selling fantasies. He's speaking as someone who has lived his entire life in America's most neglected neighborhoods, witnessing a system built to create violence, then act surprised when it happens. Ask yourself, does any young man truly want to wake up each day wondering if it'll be his last? Does any teenager dream of joining a gang, losing friends, or becoming a news headline? Of course not. What they want is survival, dignity, and opportunity. Yet the system denies them all three, then labels them criminals for finding ways to survive outside it. Here's what the media will never tell you. Crime follows poverty like fire follows gasoline. Remove poverty and crime fades. Create opportunity and violence disappears. It's not complex. It's not mysterious. It's not cultural. It's economic. But there's a reason you won't hear this on CNN or Fox News. Because when violence ends, prisons empty. Police budgets shrink. Politicians lose excuses. And the billions made off black suffering vanish. So instead, they sell another narrative. More policing will fix it. Lock them up. Send in extra patrols. All while avoiding the one solution that has ever truly worked. This is the story they refuse to share. And tonight, we're sharing it.
The worst thing black people can do, is tell the government to come into our community and deal with our children for us. The children are how they are because we allowed them to become that way. And to tell Donald Trump to come into the black community and handle my children because I'm too afraid to is a recipe for disaster. Because guess what? They shoot everybody when they come. Do you feel me?
When has that ever worked?
When has that ever worked? They shooting everybody. Elders, babies, they don't care. It's a recipe for disaster. That is a problem we should be solving ourselves. Black men must take back the black community, not the police.
Chicago, the city the media brands as America's war zone. Every headline repeats the same script. Black youth are dangerous. Journalists arrive from their quiet suburbs, point cameras at crime scenes, capture a grieving mother's tears, then fly home, convinced they've told the full story. But have they? Or did they just record the aftermath while ignoring the root cause? When the media covers Chicago, they never mention the billions taken from its schools. They skip over the factories that shut down, stripping away jobs, hope, and father figures. They overlook the corporations that profit each time another young man is imprisoned. They film the violence, but never the system behind it. To them, gangs are the problem. But to Dr. Umar Johnson, gangs are just symptoms of something much deeper: intentional economic neglect. He puts it plainly, calling the government or the police doesn't heal the community. It breaks it further. Police don't create jobs. They don't educate youth. They don't feed families. They only appear once the harm is already done. A community doesn't fall apart because gangs exist. Gangs exist because the community already fell apart. Let's face reality. A teenager doesn't pick up a gun because he wants to. He does it because it feels like the only way to stay alive or support his loved ones. When every legal door is closed, survival pushes him through the illegal one.
That is a problem we should be solving ourselves. Black men must take back the black community, not the police.
Dr. Umar completely reframes the conversation. Instead of labeling gangs as criminals to eliminate, he says we should see them as natural leaders deprived of opportunity. These young men already show organization, loyalty, courage, and business-mindedness. What they lack isn't discipline or intellect, it's access. Yet, the moment black men begin to take charge of their communities, protecting their neighborhoods, educating their youth, and building their own economy, the system suddenly intervenes. Police patrols multiply, surveillance tightens, and government oversight increases. The truth is simple. The system seeks control, not empowerment, because empowerment brings independence, and independence threatens profit. Chicago's crime crisis isn't random, it's intentional. It's a story designed to shift blame onto the oppressed while protecting those in power. The system depends on violence to justify itself. The media profits from fear. Politicians thrive on chaos. And the police? They rely on crime to keep their budgets inflated. So when people claim, Chicago has a gang problem, Dr. Umar responds, no, Chicago has a job problem. The world keeps asking the wrong question. Why do they keep killing each other? But the real question should be, who took away every other option? These young men don't choose crime. Crime chooses them when society refuses to offer them a path forward, when schools lack funding, when fathers are taken away, when practical skills are never taught, when jobs pay less than street hustles. What future is left for a young man to pursue? Dr. Umar Johnson explains this reality with absolute clarity.
By Black people, remember, what's the mother of all crime? Miseducation. What's the father of all crime? Economic castration. What are two of the bigger problems in Chicago? Poor schools and no jobs. Poverty is the mother of crime. Poverty is the mother of crime. You're not going to do nothing about poverty, but you're going to reduce crime. The only way you can do that is kill people and lock them up. You feel me? That's all you can do is remove. You're not getting rid of the problem. Yeah. You're just removing the bodies.
Notice the pattern. Close schools in Black neighborhoods. Youth end up on the streets. Eliminate trade and skill-building programs. Workers are locked out of the economy. Shut down factories, jobs disappear. Then over-police the aftermath. The prison pipeline kicks in. This isn't coincidence. This is policy. The system strips a community of opportunity, then acts shocked when that community does whatever it must to survive. Over 70% of inmates never completed high school. Most violent crimes occur in the poorest neighborhoods. Some states estimate future prison capacity based on third-grade reading scores. Yes, cages are planned before children can even read, because this economy doesn't fear crime. It profits from it. Dr. Umar states the harsh truth clearly. No teenager would reach for a gun if he had a paycheck in his hand.
Anytime you hear a politician talk about crime and don't talk about schools and jobs, you're dealing with a hypocrite. Period.
But instead of good jobs, they're given surveillance. Instead of mentors, they're given prison bars. Instead of investment in their potential, the government pours money into police overtime, because if young Black men become successful professionals, who will fill the prisons? Who will justify billion-dollar police budgets? Who will take the low-wage labor jobs? The media portrays violence as a moral issue, but Dr. Umar exposes it for what it is. Economic warfare? You want to stop crime? Stop hunger. Stop desperation. Stop hopelessness. Give these young men a life worth building, not one they're waiting to lose. Chicago doesn't need more police. It needs more engineers, contractors, welders, builders, and a system that allows Black men to thrive in those roles. Because when a man can feed his family, he no longer fears for their survival. And when a man has purpose, he has no reason to fight a war.
They're going straight to white folks. They don't even hit the ghetto. And you know what? They don't want to employ Black people anyway. You want to know why? Because Chicago, if I give you a good paying job, you ain't moving. How am I going to get you out of Chicago for these white folks to buy up all the land and now you got a job? You can actually afford a mortgage now? That don't work with what I'm trying to do. They not giving Black to. Why would you for the Jews, Italians, and Irish? Remember, the original gangsters was the Jews, Italians, and Irish. They was the gangbangers and the shoot 'em up boys.
Yeah.
Right. And then they gave the Irish the fire department in the Black community. Excuse me, they gave the Italians the fire department in the Black community. They gave the Irish the police department, and they gave the Jews the government jobs. Eliminated crime almost overnight for them people.
There's a number that keeps showing up in policy briefings, research reports, and activist talks. $80,000. That's roughly what it costs the government each year to incarcerate one young Black man in a major US city. Not to educate him, not to employ him, not to empower him, to lock him up. Now picture this. What if that same $80,000 was invested before someone ever stepped inside a jail cell? Not in policing, not in surveillance systems, but in opportunity. Here's the twisted logic of American spending. A young Black entrepreneur with a solid idea can't secure a $10,000 loan. But if that same young man lands in prison, the government instantly finds $80,000 to keep him there. It's as if the system is saying, we won't fund your future, but we'll gladly fund your cage. Let's drop the illusion that crime is only about bad choices or lack of morals. In places like Chicago, crime is an economic formula. No jobs plus no training plus no ownership. The streets become the employer. Black youth aren't inherently dangerous. They're underfunded. But here's the turning point. If a city can justify spending $80,000 to imprison someone, it can also justify spending that same amount to build a life instead of destroy it. So what could $80,000 do for one person? Pay for a 4-year college degree, launch a small business, cover trade school and tools, provide therapy and mental health care. Secure stable housing for a year? That's not charity. That's smart investment. That's prevention with a return, and communities already know how that money should flow. Local business incubators, skilled trade apprenticeships, youth violence prevention jobs, ownership pipelines instead of minimum wage cycles. Here's the uncomfortable truth politicians avoid. Investing in Black futures threatens entire industries built on Black. Suffering, from prisons and police overtime to surveillance, tech and nonprofit poverty management. There's a whole economy that profits from the block, staying broken. So when we ask, why not invest $80,000 to help him rise? The system answers, because we already profit when he falls. That's the sick math behind it all. But imagine flipping that story. That same young brother once written off as a statistic becomes an employer, a taxpayer, a mentor, a homeowner, someone who reclaims his block not through violence, but through ownership. The $80,000 solution isn't radical. It's common sense, unless the real goal is to keep a community trapped. Chicago doesn't have a crime problem. It has a resource problem. The money exists. The talent exists. The question is simple. Will America spend $80,000 to cage a Black man or $80,000 to crown one?
Like every other major city is marked for what? Gentrification.
Right.
If I give you a good paying job, you ain't moving. How I'm going to get you out of Chicago for these white folks to buy up all the land? You can actually afford a mortgage now? That don't work with what I'm trying to do. They not giving Black.
There's a familiar cycle that repeats across American cities, especially in places like Chicago's South and West Sides. First, the neighborhood is allowed to decay, jobs vanish, schools shut down, and homes sit abandoned. Then, when crime naturally rises from this neglect, the government steps in to say, this area is too dangerous to fix. But once property values crash low enough, here come the developers, corporations, and banks circling like vultures over what's left. That's the real face of gentrification. No grocery stores. Broken transportation. No access to banks or credit. Public schools left to crumble. The community is forced into survival mode. As one voice puts it, the system profits when we fail. They keep us divided so they can take our neighborhoods away. This isn't random. It's deliberate. A predictable timeline. Remove opportunity. Create desperation. Label the area high crime. Buy the land cheap. When they claim crime is the issue, what they really mean is, crime is our justification to take your property. And once the takeover starts, everything changes. New coffee shops open, police presence increases, this time to protect assets. Rents soar, and longtime residents are forced out. They don't eliminate the crime until they've eliminated the people.
Racism cost you your country. You better put Black men in this war, and you better put him in quick, because if you don't, y'all gonna lose. We saved the country for him, and as a result of that, he couldn't kick us out. We should have said to ourselves, if we can beat the Confederacy for the Union, why can't we beat the Union for ourselves?
True safety in Chicago doesn't come when a police cruiser drives by, nor when a new government policy is announced. As Dr. Umar explains, real security begins when a man has steady work, self-respect, and a future he values. When he has a career, a home, and a community that relies on him. He doesn't reach for a weapon, he embraces responsibility. He protects his neighborhood with more commitment than any police force ever could.
Racism cost you your country. You better put Black men in this war, and you better put him in quick, because if you don't, y'all gonna lose. We saved the country for him, and as a result of that, He couldn't kick us out.
The system has conditioned young people to focus on survival instead of success. But where opportunity thrives, the mindset of crime fades away. When real jobs exist, drug dealers lose their recruits, gangs lose their members, and violence loses its reason to exist. A job isn't just a paycheck, it's protection. A stable income can stop a bullet long before it's fired. Police typically show up after the damage is done. True community safety means preventing that damage from happening at all. No officer understands the streets like those who live there. No government official will ever care for a child the way their own neighborhood does. That's why Dr. Umar reminds us, no one can protect us better than we can protect ourselves.
We should have said to ourselves, if we can beat the Confederacy for the Union, why can't we beat the Union for ourselves?
When neighbors unite, problems on the block are solved before they explode. Disagreements don't turn into funerals. Outsiders can't enter unnoticed. Children don't slip into the cycle of crime. That's what real safety looks like. Security built from within, but the strongest form of protection is ownership. If you don't own your home, your land, or your store, someone else holds power over your future. When ownership is missing, your presence can be erased in an instant. Owning your property locks out gentrification. It keeps families rooted in their communities and their history. When the people own the block, no one can take it away. And here's a deeper truth. When fathers are present, the system hesitates to interfere. When fathers are absent, the system steps in. The school-to-prison pipeline thrives when young boys grow up without guidance. But when fathers return, when sons witness love and leadership at home, the streets lose their influence. Fatherhood provides a kind of protection no police department can replicate. For that protection to last, political independence is essential. Leadership must rise from within, from those who have lived the struggle, walked the same streets, and understand the pain firsthand. When voting power, economic power, and community safety all belong to the same people, the system loses its control. Picture the future. Abandoned houses become construction sites. Street boys start working real jobs. Mothers rest peacefully. Fathers return home instead of going to prison, and one day, the young men of Chicago will stand and say, "This land is ours. These children are ours. This future is ours." On that day, crime won't just decline, it will lose its purpose entirely.
He was trying to get us off to Panama, to Haiti. He didn't want no blacks in him. When the Civil War was over, we was all supposed to get on ships and be taken away. That was Abraham Lincoln's plan.
They told the world that Chicago was broken, that the South Side was beyond hope. They used fear to convince the nation that crime was part of the community's identity instead of its enemy. But the truth is simple. There's nothing wrong with the people. Something is deeply wrong with the system that profits from their struggle. For years, the narrative has been weaponized against the very neighborhoods it describes. Politicians build careers off the community's pain. The media floods the airwaves with stories of gang wars, but stays silent about jobs, the one thing that could end those wars overnight. Police flood the streets only after chaos unfolds, and prisons fill with fathers who were denied the chance to provide. Yet, every time the system expects collapse, the community stands up again. The block doesn't need outsiders to rescue it. What it needs is opportunity, and it will save itself.
He was trying to get us off to Panama, to Haiti. He didn't want no blacks in him. When the Civil War was over, we was all supposed to get on ships and be taken away. That was Abraham Lincoln's plan.
If we were ever given the resources we truly deserve, we could rebuild this entire community overnight. This isn't a story about crime, it's about power. Criminal behavior fades when people have something greater to live for. Guns lose their attraction when the future feels possible. And when a community takes charge of its own direction, fear disappears. Picture a Chicago where every young man wakes up to a job he earned. Every father returns home to guide his family. Every house belongs to the people who live in it. Every child grows up knowing they were born to build, not to destroy. That's the Chicago the system truly fears. Because if this transformation begins here, it will spread everywhere. Those in power depend on one false belief: that our communities are dangerous. But the greatest threat to them is a community that understands its own strength. The block is not a war zone, it's a kingdom. The people are not victims, they are leaders ready to rise. And crime isn't destiny. It's a business model built to keep us trapped. But when we break that business, when we reclaim our blocks with jobs, unity, fatherhood, and ownership, the entire system will tremble. So here's the message to every brother standing on every corner. You are not the problem. You are the solution. You are the protection. You are the power. The future isn't something we're waiting for. The future is already here, waiting for us to claim it.